What's up, guys? Today we're on YouTube. I don't even know why I say that. And pretty sure I can filter. Okay. I'm looking at that. We're gonna watch this and else. Okay, yeah, this. Okay, we just gonna watch this.
All right, 8 detective riddles to test how awesome your logic skills are. Today, Brightside gives you the opportunity to feel like a real detective by solving cases using just a few hints. After each riddle, you will have 15 seconds to think it over. If you need more time to think, just pause the video. And if you crack at least one mystery, hit the like button. All right, Sherlock, here we go. Counting down from number 8, escape. Once a famous detective, Stevenson, had to find an escaped prisoner. He knew the criminal was hiding in one of these houses, but he had to know the exact address so as to not frighten the criminal away. First, he took a photo of the houses with the help of a drone. When he looked at the photo, he realized where the criminal was. So, can you understand where that fugitive was and what helped the detective find him? You have 15 seconds. Your
It's
time
B.
has started.
It's definitely B. I haven't watched this before. It's B though. I know it. Because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, so all we could these to be.
Are you ready to check your guesses? The murderer was in house A.
What?
You see, the car standing nearby was the only car parked facing the road. It would let the criminal escape quickly.
Oh my god.
Number 7, detective's tragedy. One morning, the detective had an argument with his wife and went away without his cell phone and the keys. In the evening, when he returned home, he found his colleague, his scared wife, and a murdered man. Stephen's wife told her story. I was sitting in the living room when I heard the doorbell. I thought it was my husband and opened the door, but a criminal pushed me, and so I stabbed him with a knife. The detective ordered the policeman to arrest his wife because she had planned to kill him. How did the detective figure it out? Time to rack your brain.
It's because that she could have looked through the door hole. And since she's on the ground, where's the door? The door's right there. If she could have stabbed them, they would have been right there by the door.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Stevens indeed planned to kill her husband. She went to open the door with a knife because she thought it was her husband.
Oh, I missed that one too.
Number 6, friendly murder. Mary and Ben lived with their 4 friends. One day, Ben came home and found Mary dead on a sofa. Bummer. He called the police. The detective arrived and realized that Mary had been killed not so long ago. He interrogated all 4 friends. That's what their stories told. Mia was in the kitchen and said she'd come home 2 hours ago and gone to the kitchen. John was reading a book in the garden. He said he hadn't left the place that day. Jennifer said she had been swimming in a swimming pool for 3 hours. Jane was painting in her room.
Wait. So what happened again?
Unfortunately,
No.
Jennifer, the garden. He said he hadn't left the place that day. 2 hours ago and gone to the kitchen. John was reading a book in the garden. He said he... Number 6. Friendly murder. Mary and Ben lived with their 4 friends. One day, Ben came home and found Mary dead on a sofa. Bummer. He called the police. The detective arrived and realized that Mary had been killed
So
not
she was
so
down
long
on
ago.
the sofa.
He interrogated... murderer. How did Stevens uncover the criminal? Time is ticking away. Tick-tock.
I think it's because
Who do you think the detective was checking?
he could have been reading a book for 3 hours. I
Well,
don't know.
time is out. Here's the answer. Pay attention to the hands of Jennifer. If she had been swimming in the pool for so long, the skin on her palms would have been wrinkled. Oh, Jennifer, your pruny hands gave you away. Number 5. Blood ties. A millionaire was shot in the forehead at his own home. Detective Stevens spoke to the millionaire's 3 sons, Jack, John, and James, who were at home. Jack said that night, John, their father, let me guess, the wife's name is Jane, I'll bet. Anyway, the father had been at an official reception. They arrived home and entered the living room. His father came in first, then John and Jack himself. When their father came up to the stairs, James entered the living room and shot their father. John confirmed Jack's information. James said he had visited his friends that night. When he arrived home, his father had already been dead. The detective understood everything immediately. So, who was the killer, and how did Stevens resolve that case?
He was the killer.
What do you think?
He was the killer. He was definitely the killer. No, wait, he was the killer. Yes. Yeah.
The word of one brother against 2 others. A tricky case. Or have you already figured out what happened? Let's check if you are right. John and Jack lied. If James had killed their father, a bullet would have shot him in the nape because he wanted to go upstairs. However, the wound was on his forehead. All right, I was thinking it was Jane, but no. Number 4, romantic journey. Mr. and Mrs. Clyde went on a trip to the mountains, but 2 days later, Mr. Clyde returned home alone. He went to the police and said that Mrs. Clyde had fallen to her death. The next day, Detective Stevens visited Mr. Clyde and arrested him for his wife's murder. Clyde confessed his guilt and asked the detective how he found out he was the murderer. Stevens said he simply called a travel agent and asked for some information. What did the travel agent say to the detective?
He pushed her off the mountain.
What is your do with the insurance, perhaps? You have just a few seconds left. Do you know the answer? The words of the travel agent shed light on the whole situation. Mr. Clyde bought 2 plane tickets to the mountains and only 1 return ticket. Ah, if only Mrs. Clyde had known. Hey, blame the Beatles. She didn't have a ticket to ride. Number 3, liar. A man told the police